All right. You're going to deal with it just in terms of it may be expensive to fix some of these things, but they are costing us a lot of money now. All right, let's get into the meat of the matter here. Can I get up and walk over to the whiteboard? Ellie, the director, you good with that? All right, good. So, Senator, I did a lot of homework, talked to a lot of experts, some of which you've used as well, to try to break down single-payer health care. It's very complex, very scary to people, but let's try to simplify it. And I got three big main points of pushback for you to defend. Here we go. The first one is, I've written the word socialism. I'm not here to beat you over the head calling you a socialist, but the problem with the selling point of this is it smacks of the end of capitalism, and that people will say, what Sanders
really
wants
does it,
is
Chris.
socialized medicine.
Hey, Chris, you're going to have to do some more homework, because I think you're going to have to explain to the American people, if Canada can provide health care to all people, the UK can provide health care to all people, every major country on earth can provide health care to all people. I don't think it's that scary.
But they call it socialized medicine.
Well, some people may. So what?
Well, because that's kind of what it is. Government paying for everything, taking the private profit motive out of it, taking private business out of it.
Actually, Chris, actually, it is not. Canadian healthcare system has private doctors, private hospitals, private nonprofit hospitals, doctors practice on their own. What we already have in this country, Chris, which does not scare people, but which people think very highly of, is you got Medicare, right?
Yes.
Medicare is the most popular healthcare program in America today.
True.
So people are saying if it's good for people 65 and older, why shouldn't it be good for everybody in this country?
So that's the suggestion. Now let's go into what the point of pushback might be. 70+% of people in polls say healthcare is their top priority. They're worried about it. They want it to be better. Now that is on Trump's plate because of what they did with the individual mandate and now popping premiums. Sanders, you're right about that. The only thing that unites people more when it comes to health care than wanting it to be better is the fear of change, okay? So that's going to take trust. And right now, there isn't a lot of trust with you people down in Washington because they see you as breaking this. So what is your pitch for how this is better? That means better outcomes, better experience, better on their pocketbook. How is single payer going to be better when it will require people like me, who has a generous health care policy through their employer, there are 170 million of us, we're going to have to change and come into your new plan. Why is it better?
Well, you're going to change, Chris, not in terms of the doctor you go to. You're going to go to the same doctor.
Watch with that promise. I heard that got somebody in a lot of trouble once.
No. You're going to change in that the color of your card is going to be a little bit different. Instead of saying Blue Cross, Blue Shield, or United, it's going to say Medicare. And I think at a time when people who are watching this program have deductibles of $5,000 or $10,000 a year, can't afford to go to the doctor, when 1 out of 5 Americans can't afford the prescription drugs they desperately need because we're getting ripped off by the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, I think it is clear that we need health care that guarantees quality care to every man, woman, and child in this country, lowers the cost of prescription drugs, and expands primary health care in America.
But
today we have the most expensive system per capita in the world by far.
And we're going to get to that. However, when you look at Canada, you look at the UK, even look at Taiwan, they have problems with drug pricing. In fact, most of those plans now require supplemental policies to deal with drugs, either explicitly or happens by... Oh, it absolutely is true. You have people in Canada who are having to take out separate insurance. Taiwan had to deal with it as separate insurance.
No. All right, but no, that's true. And in fact, the Canadians now see one of the weaknesses of their system, Chris, is that they don't cover prescription drugs as part of their healthcare system. And they're moving on there. But having said that, the costs of prescription drugs in this country, undeniably, are far, far higher than they are in Canada.
True.
Millions of Americans today are buying their prescription drugs from Canada and from other countries.
True.
Because only in America can the drug companies charge you any price they want for the drugs you desperately need.
True.
Meaning millions of people cannot afford the medicine that they require.
All right. So strong point for Sanders there. And that now takes us to the crux of the matter. What do you do about the cost? Because pretty much everybody... You still hearing me, Senator?
Yeah, I am.
All right, good. Sometimes people say they can't hear, but really you just don't want to listen. But that's not you, Senator. So we get to money, all right? And how do we deal with the money? This is going to be very expensive. I was reading through all these estimates today about the trillions of dollars that this would cost and how you deal with it. There seem to be two main ways, okay? The first one is cut the costs you're talking about. Have the government be the sole, not just pooling all the people together because in numbers there is strength, but it would mandate what the pricing is. Sounds good. Force the companies to kneel and to come into some kind of obeisance where the people come first. But here's the problem. 1 in 9 people in our economy are employed within healthcare. You would destroy the profit model. You would destroy that industry because it would become so much cheaper. It could affect access. It could affect employment for people. So how do you sell that cutting costs will work?
First of all, I think when you have the function of healthcare, Chris, let me back it up a minute, should not be to make profits for insurance companies and to allow CEOs to earn $20 or $30 million a year. The function of a rational healthcare system, and again, Chris, what I'm suggesting to you is not a radical idea. It exists in every other major country on earth. The function of a rational healthcare system is to provide healthcare to all people in a cost-effective way. That is the function of a rational healthcare system.
Understood.
Now, to answer your question, is it true that today there are some people, if you go to the basement of a hospital, you got hundreds of people, dozens of people who are doing nothing else but billing, right? They are sitting out telling you that you owe them money. You have people hounding doctors about what kind of medicine they should be able to use,
right,
and so forth and so on. Will those people lose their jobs when we have health care for all guaranteed through a single-payer system? The answer is yes. On the other hand, we have a lack of doctors in this country, a lack of nurses, a lack of nurse practitioners, a lack of dentists. We are an aging population. We need more people to be working with our older people. We will create more jobs under a rational Medicare for all system than currently exists. There will be a transition just in the same way, Chris, as we have to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel. We create more jobs, but there will be pain, and you got to deal with that pain.
Well, all right, but dealing with pain is not something that is done well in politics, and that's why the idea of raising taxes to pay for this kind of single-payer plan, which is almost a guarantee, is hard. Your own state, Vermont, tried it in 2014,
Chris,
couldn't do it because they'd have to sell an 11% increase.
Chris, you're talking about raising taxes,
yes,
but you're forgetting the other half of the equation, is that people are not going to be paying private insurance costs. So if, hypothetically, we say to you, Chris Cuomo, the bad news is you're going to pay $5,000 more in taxes. Good news is you're not paying $10,000 to Blue Cross. Are you really going to come crying to me?
But I'll tell you, it depends who I am. First of all, I'm a Cuomo. I never cry. It's one of our problems of emotional limitation. But what I'm saying is that it depends on what you pay, what your salary is. Because if it's going to be a 10% VIG for this, that for someone making $40,000 means one amount of money. For somebody making $100,000 means something else. And it will be, you'll have to find a way to balance that. Let me ask you something. Would you accept anything short of this? Work on some kind of halfway
let me
plan?
just say this. Chris, I would not be fighting for Medicare for all, which, by the way, a majority of the American people now support. I would not be fighting for this unless it benefited financially and in a health perspective ordinary Americans. So let us be clear about this. Right. At the end of the day, the middle class and working families of this country will be better off under a Medicare for all system. You got unions. I just talked to some union workers the other day.
Yeah.
What do you think happens every time a contract comes up? They spend half their lives arguing about health care costs. They don't get a wage increase because health care costs are soaring.
And yet at the same time, they're one of the most expensive.